they were doing this thing called Firm of the Future that they
Right.
launched.
Yeah.
This award. So they did that every year at QuickBooks Connect.
And that's a big deal.
It's one of the biggest events in San Jose. One of the biggest.
And this is of the minority of accountants that are coming.
Yes.
When I say, right, most accountants don't even.
Not ethnic minority. Yeah. So in our second year of business, we were already a semifinalist Firm of the Future. And then in 2018, we were the U.S. Firm of the Future for Intuit. So it was a pretty quick growth and rise. And
so a caricature of you then would have a very big head, right? At that point. Yeah.
I do have a big head.
Beautiful. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. I've been to Torrey Pines 3 times in the last.
And how many times have you been to Pinehurst?
A lot.
Torrey Pines a white people club? Is that what it is?
No, it's public.
Oh, it's a public white people club.
There's lots of people like you, Clay.
No, yes,
like me, really. A lot like
we go out.
What does that mean? What is that?
Asians are good at golf. Okay, listen to this. First time I was there last year, I played right behind a group of Asians, and I love playing with Asians because they know the rules. This guy was like,
"They know the rules." How stereotypical.
He told me that he eats. I see him pick up a piece of grass and eat it, and I'm like, "Why are you doing that?" And he's like, "I eat grass before every round." And he's like, "Do you eat beef?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "What do you think the beef eat?" It's like grass. It's like, you eat grass all the time. I'm like,
was this one of the Asian guys that said this to you?
Of course, yeah. And
what do you mean, of course? We don't.
Of course. I already exhaled because you
Did
asked.
I get canceled?
Asked and I knew. Oh, God. You're canceled us already. We're off the air. We're done before we can even introduce who our guest is tonight.
The man of Asian intelligence.
We have the
AI.
The Lee with us. The Lee.
Hey guys, thank you for having me on.
You know why you're Leesky, right?
Because of skiing.
During a webinar, one of your employees was describing you, and they said he's a jet ski, and I was just like, a jet ski? Like, when's the last time somebody talked about a jet ski? So it had to go with Leesky, yeah. But it has nothing to do with him being Asian at all.
Wait, why did they say he was like a jet ski?
Yeah, why did she say that? I think you were on.
I don't remember.
It was more of the jet ski part. I love how your staff talks about you. It's a dynamic. It's the kind of thing. You've built a team that is dedicated and loyal to your brand in the best possible way.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I hope so. We'll see.
Why don't you give us a background? How'd you get in accounting?
Okay, let's go. Let's let the millennials talk.
How you got into
let's
accounting.
let the elder millennial talk. All right.
Okay. I'm glad they can't see the video unless you plan to upload this podcast video that you're recording right now.
Potentially.
I've got a face for audio.
There you go.
Right,
so how did I get into accounting? I was, I think, 12 or 13 years old, and my brother-in-law today, I was dating my sister. He was in high school with my sister and was doing accounting work at a nonprofit in Arizona. And so each summer, I would go into that nonprofit and help them with just data entry stuff. It was a nonprofit that did sports leagues and competitions. And so I would enter data into Lotus 123 about the athletes that were competing and, the scheduling, all that stuff. And my brother-in-law was the bookkeeper for that nonprofit. And when he left to go get his master's in accounting 3 years later, I was 16 at the time, they gave me his accounting job, because he had trained me on everything.
And so, how much money did they pay you to do this?
I think, you know what is so great about this is Ackerman doesn't think you know accounting. He went into this thinking you knew nothing about accounting.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever said that, Michael. Don't listen to that bullshit.
I've made that up, but I don't know. It might be true.
So, I think they paid me like 15 an hour, 16 an hour, and
that's pretty. And what year is this?
This is so 16. It was 1995, 1996.
So that's a lot of money back then.
That was
for
great.
16 years old.
Oh yeah, that was great.
You were like the king of the castle.
Oh yeah, it was great, and so 97, yeah, and I was in this special program in my last year in high school. I needed to only go to high school half the day because I had I don't know, done something special, I guess. So they let me out.
You were born Asian.
Yeah, they let me out at noon every day, and I could go to work. And so that's what I did. In my last year in high school, I went to work for the second half of the day and a little bit into the evening. And so that's when I worked full time. I did that job for 3 years. That was my first accounting job, was at this nonprofit from 16 to 19 years old, and then went to study accounting at Arizona State.
You're doing an internship when you're in high school.
Yeah, but I was their accountant, literally. I did all of the bookkeeping, all the financial reporting, and I did the board presentations. And I remember being
no
like,
one went to jail.
and no one went to jail. And I remember
pretty good.
when the executive director introduced me at the next board meeting, like, oh, this is Michael. This is the former accountant's, brother-in-law. He's taken over, and I I'm right now. I'm in my late 30s.
He's got
and
his
I look
backpack
like
on.
yeah, exactly. I look like I'm in my 20s, and so you can imagine how young I look
Asians do
then.
not age well. They
Like
are
50,
16
and then it's
years old.
straight age.
Yes, boom, and then you're Manchu, Fu Manchu, out of nowhere, white hair, done.
Yeah,
But you could be about 60 and look 16. They
right,
just don't age well.
right. They
I
don't
love it.
age
Are you Korean?
evenly. No, I'm not Korean.
Chinese.
I'm Chinese, but my parents are from Cambodia.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I dated a Cantonese girl for a while,
Okay.
so I can make these Asian jokes. Is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
I dated her for like 5 years.
That's
She
like
was an
Yeah,
Asian,
we've all
we're
been
very
discriminated against, I think. He's got mainland. We don't even have a homeland.
We have Israel.
Is
we
it
need to talk about that.
really ours though?
Okay.
Isn't that under debate?
I've been to Israel. I've been to the Promised Land. I feel very blessed that I was able to do that, and surprised I was even given that opportunity. But it was pretty great.
You went to Arizona State, and then where did you work after college?
During my time at Arizona State, I did bookkeeping. After I left that nonprofit, I did bookkeeping on the side to support myself through college. You guys remember Palm Pilots?
Oh wow, yes.
Oh, hell yeah.
The
Yes,
first nerdy smartphone. No one had them except for nerds.
We know.
And so in college for 2 years, I built Palm Pilot software with my high school best friend. We started a company together, built Palm Pilot software. And then after college, I went to work at a public accounting firm called Eide Bailey, but not in audit or tax. I worked in their consulting division. I tried to apply for audit and tax, and the girl that was the hiring manager said, your personality is going to quickly get bored in
that was smart on their part.
Yeah.
Really, you would have hated tax and
Yeah.
audit. You would have ended up in there and not been where you are now.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. And so she just said, "Hey,
You better thank her. You better call her up and thank her.
Oh yeah, she was great. And,
Let's call her up right now. Let's get her on the
yeah.
phone.
So
Dude, she changed your life.
She did. She totally did. She said, "Hey, we have this new consulting."
You know, it wasn't her. It was you because you're the one who she
Let him speak.
Yeah, okay.
Let the man speak.
It's this podcast with Scott Strano.
It's Scott Strano's podcast, and he just talks constantly and doesn't let you tell your story.
Yeah, so she said, "Hey, that we just started a consulting division. There's this guy. He's not hiring college grads, but he probably will hire you." And he hired me, and I would call him my first CFO mentor. He was a CFO. He would put me in the controller or senior accountant seat. I would go in and clean stuff up while he did the CFO work. So we were kind of a tag team duo in the clients. I did that for about a year, and then quickly said, well, I don't think I want to stay at a public accounting firm. So I left and started doing consulting work on my own, and basically did that from 2006 till I moved to Seattle in 2007. My wife and I had been married for about a year. We were in Seattle, and I joined a firm called the Mosaic Company, and I was their controller and eventually became their CFO. And we grew rapidly during my time there, and it was a great experience. It was like probably the best management team I'd ever worked with. Great people, loved the founder and CEO.
How'd y'all end up in Seattle?
How did we end up?
You just segued into and I just moved to Seattle.
Yeah, we moved to Seattle. We after we got married in Arizona. I met my wife in Arizona. She's from Vermont. And after we got married, we spent a year in Arizona, and we were really thinking and praying about where to move to next, and where to kind of spend our life together. I always knew I didn't want to spend my whole life in Arizona. I already spent all my upbringing in there, and I knew there was
irony.
Yeah, there was a world to see. Exactly. Oh, the irony.
Oh, the world to see.
There's a world to see, and so
you go up to the top left. Right?
Yep.
The top left.
Yeah, we spent 4.5 years there, and I built my solid accounting career, I would say, in that 4.5 years, where I was able to get to the CFO level pretty rapidly, and with a growing company, and get thrown a lot of challenging things, and it was awesome. It was really great. And then 2011, we moved to Vermont because we started having kids. We wanted to be near some family. I didn't want to go back to Arizona yet.
Top right.
top right of the country. I wanted to go even more left. Right? So it's like Arizona,
Even
Seattle,
more
big
left of
left,
center, yeah.
and I went even more left. I had to experience it. So went to Vermont, and so that's where we've been for the past 9.5 years, and then recently made our way to Arizona.
Meaning made your way. No, this was supposed to just be temporary, though, right?
We're trying to see if we can make this a permanent move.
So you go back to your foundation, the hero's journey. That's
Yeah.
that's some Joseph Campbell shit. The
Yeah.
hero's journey. He ends up back home and conquers.
Exactly.
Gladiator. Or I don't know if Gladiator's the story of Michael Lee, not the other heroes.
That's beautiful. Okay, so how did you decide? So you were working at the firm in Seattle. How did you decide to start your own accounting?
Oh yeah,
firm?
when did that even happen? Did we just skip all of that and end with the journey?
Let the
We
man
just went right
speak.
to the end?
Jesus.
Let's see. What happened? We moved from Seattle to Vermont, and I was still CFOing for that firm in Seattle. So I would
So a
take
firm.
trips.
Were you at an accounting firm?
No. This is called the Mosaic Company. They were in energy consulting, training.
Okay.
Big utilities were their clients. I was just their CFO.
Yeah,
right? I
but
was
you're
just-
learning business. I mean, you're seeing.
Oh yeah, I learned everything. I got
It's-
insight to everything. It was amazing experience. And so when I moved to Vermont, I still stayed their CFO for a couple of years, and I would travel back to Seattle once a month. But I started building my network in Vermont. So started consulting on my own, and eventually when I left the Mosaic Company, I had a big enough network to build my own little consulting practice. And during that time, which is common probably for most small businesses, but in Vermont especially, I would go into companies and try to do CFO work, and the books need to be taken care of first, right? You need to have solid bookkeeping, solid records in order to do your CFO work. I found myself oftentimes being a very expensive bookkeeper for a few months, getting records put together and straight so I could do my analytics work and CFO work. So after a couple of years, I realized, wow, I think I could solve this whole bookkeeping issue with my own team. So I started hiring my own bookkeepers. I launched Reconciled the fall of 2015. And 5.5 years later, I've got 50 employees. So that's the story of Reconciled. Not a lot of
2015. That is like the ideal time to start a firm because that's when everything was there. Ackerman, would you say 15?
I think there's always a good time to start a firm.
I'm saying for the modern, everything was there in 15. You had the business acumen to not start a traditional accounting firm. You started a business.
Right. And yeah, at the time, there were enough cloud-based accounting products out, right?
That's what I mean. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, exactly. And there was enough growth happening on all the platforms that you said, okay, it's good enough. It's not as good as desktop software yet, but it's good enough.
QuickBooks Online at that point was good enough.
Yes.
It wasn't what it was when it first came. When it first came out, like early 2000s, it was shit.
Terrible.
It was
terrible.
garbage. Yeah. But by 15, you had other people surrounding it.
Oh yeah.
You're coming at this from a business perspective instead of from I'm an accountant, I'm going to do people's work and then grow into owning a firm. You're coming at it as I'm going to hire this person to do this. I mean, tell us what you did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically what it is. And I really was at first in the beginning, I was trying to solve, hey, how do I get out of bookkeeping work so I can do real CFO work? Oh, I need to have my own bookkeeping team. But then the demand for kind of the full service of cloud services started to grow. And, I had I put together a brand, reconciled it with my co-founder, Bonnie, who's no longer involved with the business. But I put together a brand.
Pun intended. Reconciled it. Oh, I thought she said I came up with a brand and we reconciled it. Like both of us came together and we decided this is the right brand.
Yeah, that was the brand. Reconciled it. What I didn't expect that a $99 website and logo would start growing very rapidly, and then in the fall of 18 is when we rebranded. We took it out of the picture and just called it Reconciled.
Well, tell me then in 16 and 17, did it get out of control at any point? The growth and the business? Did you ever get to the point where it was, running you? Or
16, 17 were definitely heavy hustle years, right? Because you're in your first couple years of business. You don't know if this is going to be a long-term thing still and a going concern. So, and I was doing everything. I was doing CFO work. I was hiring people, finding team members. I was managing. sales, everything, right? And I had to define our tech stack, define what systems we would eventually standardize on. I remember going to my first QuickBooks Connect. I didn't even know there was a community of people out there. I had no idea. I was literally exposed to kind of I think the second QuickBooks Connect in 15 or 16 and realized, oh, wow, this is a bigger community than I
It's
realized.
like the first time seeing in color.
Yes, it's the first time seeing in color, right? So I realized quickly, but what I also learned, because I remember the first QuickBooks Connect that I went to, half the conference was about how the internet was safe. And I realized,
They had to tell everybody how the internet was
yeah,
safe.
yeah, because the accounting profession was still
right,
so
yeah.
new to QuickBooks
They
Online.
still are though. They
still are. That's what I'm
Big
saying.
this time. Yeah. Oh, God.
Yeah. If you think about it, the minority of accounting firms are still on cloud-based tools. The majority are still on desktop-based tools.
Wow.
So remember, so think about 2015, right? When there was only a couple million people on cloud-based accounting platforms. There wasn't like 5, 10, 20 million people on it. So they were still convincing accountants it's safe to use the internet. And I remember sitting there in the audience going, this is going to be a cakewalk. That's what I remember thinking. If the competition needs to be convinced the internet's safe.
Yeah, but you know what that confidence does though? That's a solid driver to continue to see, okay, now I can scale up my business like to whatever height I want it to. Do you think that's a turning point though? Like seeing in color the first time, was that something that made you see a big picture, like a bigger picture?
Huge turning point. They were doing this thing called Firm of the Future that they
Right.
launched.
Yeah.
This award that they launched. So they did that every year at QuickBooks Connect.
And that's a big deal because there's a lot of fucking people QuickBooks.
There were probably 3,000 people at that.
Okay, yeah.
That was an early QuickBooks Connect. The last QuickBooks Connect I went to in person was 7,000. It's one of the biggest events in San Jose.
And this is of the minority of accountants that are coming.
Yes.
When I say, right, you know, like most accountants don't even.
Not ethnic minority. Yeah. I knew we were on the right track when in the next year, my second QuickBooks Connect in 2016, we were a semi-finalist for the Firm of the Future. So in our second year of business, we were already a semi-finalist for Firm of the Future. So we were like, okay, we're obviously on the right track. And then in 18, we were the U.S. Firm of the Future for Intuit. So it was a pretty quick growth and rise. And
so a caricature of you then would have a very big head, right? At that point. Yeah.
I do have a big head. I do
naturally with the hair too. You make it even look bigger too.
So I've had a lot of fun. I've learned a ton.
We're still in 2016. You're in Vermont. You're growing this firm. How many people you got?
2000. So by the end of 16, I probably have 8 people.
And you're still wearing a lot of hats.
Yeah, still wearing a lot of hats. 2017, I started layering in my leadership team.
Okay.
Because I knew it was going to go somewhere.
It's impressive, to be building a management team and all of that in your third year.
Yeah.
And you're all cloud though. Did you have an office at that point?
Well, I went to an office myself because I don't like working from home. So I went to an office, and we had a little bit of space for people who wanted to come in. Everyone basically worked remotely in some form or fashion, and I had a small office. And at the time, I started hiring just in Burlington area, and then went Vermont statewide, and then as each year went by, I started adding additional states I would hire from. And now we're up to, I think, about 10 states that we hire from.
Wow. Okay. So you decide ahead of time, or do you find the talent and then say, are we going to add this state?
Most of the time, we decide ahead of time which state we're going into.
Cool. All right. Well, yeah. So then I guess tell us, so you were always sort of that hybrid remote, or no hybrid. You went into an office yourself. Mm-hmm. You're not ever meeting with clients in person per se, or were you?
If they were in Burlington, they want to come meet me, they could. But otherwise, that wasn't the structure. That wasn't set up to meet with clients in person. No.
I guess tell us a little bit more about what you guys offer. Let's hear what Reconciled does.
Wherever you'd like to go.
Wherever Ackerman likes to go. He's been very quiet.
You've been talking a lot.
Let's go. Let's hear it. Now this is the pitch. Do you need your taxes done? Do you need...
Reconciled is Reconciled provides online accounting and bookkeeping services to small businesses and startups throughout the U.S. Full back office, bookkeeping, payroll, financial statements, AR, AP management, mostly on QuickBooks Online, some on Xero, and Sage Intacct as well. And we also provide probably 25-30% of our services are at the controller and CFO level. So we do have CFO advisors and controllers that do higher level accounting work. But our bread and butter is back office bookkeeping for startups and entrepreneurs and small businesses.
When you're getting a new client, where are they on their stage of development? Do they have any bookkeeping? Are they just like starting out?
I would say the bread and butter customer is doing $1 million to $2 million a year in revenue. They got a dozen employees and they've got small amount of growth happening. We're replacing some kind of solution, whether it's the owner was doing it, the reception was doing it, or a bookkeeper was coming by and working at their office, and the bookkeeper gets pregnant or takes a job or gets sick or quits or whatever. So that's like the difference. There's a variety of reasons why people come to us. Startups that are pre-revenue, venture funded, right, or they've got a small amount of capital, they've got nothing set up, and so we help them set up. We got clients that are at 40-50 million a year in revenue, and they've got a full bookkeeping staff that we're replacing, literally.
So let me ask you, how do you price your services?
How do we price them? So we have a whole sales team that value prices our customers on a fixed monthly fee, and so it depends on a number of factors.
So you do fixed monthly fees.
Yep.
So you don't charge by the hour.
Right.
So tell us the factors of how you do a price.
The factors are a mix of services, services signed up for, complexity of services, transaction volume, and then time saved or perception of time valued, right? That we're going to give back to the owner or to whoever we're replacing. And so we have that mix that contributes into the value of the price. And then my sales team puts together a price and sends it over. We don't have like a spreadsheet formula algorithm. We could be providing, let's say, $1,000 a month to a customer for the same level of service that we're charging somebody else $2,000 a month, right? So value pricing means the full value to the customer. So it's going to be different for each customer. It's fixed pricing means you have a transparent fixed price that's literally tied to something, and that's not how we price. We price it to value.
So before I bring Scott back on, one more question. Do you give them one price, or do you give them three different? Do you give them more than one option?
We give them generally one price. Generally one price. Yeah.
And what's your conversion rate?
I actually don't know that answer because I have a sales team that handles all that. I think generally you want your conversion rate to be 30% or less. You want to close 30% or less of your deals. That means you're pricing high enough for the sales proposals that you're sending out. So I don't manage that piece of the business, but it's low enough to where we're leaving enough. We have enough people saying no to us.
Yeah, we do fixed pricing too, and I think we convert way too high of a percentage.
I love that you value price. What I'm fascinated by is you've got a team doing it. Tell me about your sales team. Like, how did you hire them? What's their background?
Yeah, so I think obviously every role in the company I had done first, right? And so you want to.
That's a core belief of mine too. Like, you should be able to know how to do everything.
Yeah, you know of it or you did it. Yeah, and I was a salesperson for the company up until spring of 2018. So the first 3 years of the business. So then I told my network on LinkedIn I was looking for somebody to take over sales because I had created this, what I would call a predictable sales process, right? If you've read the book Predictable Revenue, then
I have not. Who wrote that?
I actually can't recall the author.
I will
but
jot it down.
Yeah, you can use this thing called Google. It's like amazing. So Predictable Revenue talks to you about creating a predictable sales process where you can predict based on your sales process how much revenue you are going to have and bring in every single month for the future. So I basically put together what I didn't know at the time was a predictable revenue model. And it was a recurring revenue model, predictable. And it was all mostly based on email marketing. And
which you still do.
which we still do.
Yeah.
And then some, inbound funnels through our website and through word of mouth, but most of it on email marketing. And I had stumbled upon email marketing like our second year in business and realized most accounting firms aren't emailing. They're not doing email marketing. At the time, they weren't, definitely. I think I could figure this out because software companies have figured it out and Viagra has figured it out. So why can't I figure it out? Accounting firms can figure it out. So
There we go.
we did email marketing and it worked surprisingly, right?
I'm very surprised that it worked. Yeah, I still am.
Surprised. And I think it's because it works because if you can, there's enough people, there's enough business owners out there at any given time who absolutely need accounting and they know they need it at that moment. So if you catch them on the email, you're capturing the low-hanging fruit of the small business market, right?
And they could end up being very good clients.
Oh, we've got some very amazing clients
Yeah.
because of it, very high-paying ones because of it. And you get tire kickers as well, and you get customers that
How do you get the email lists, though, when you do email marketing?
We use a partner called Growbots
Okay.
for our email marketing, where the email list is built into the software.
Okay.
So we don't have, some people get their lists from a Zoom Info or from other places, and then they load it into a CRM or into an email campaign system. I wanted to save my time, right? I'm not about waste. I'm trying to be efficient.
Sure. Yeah,
so it's about combining them together so I don't have to worry about downloading and uploading or anything like that. You just go into the system, tell the system who your targets are in it. It does the rest. It's magic. So I wanted to find somebody who could take over the sales process and got introduced to somebody in Burlington that was looking for a role. He had recently closed his business and wanted to kind of be back in the industry working for a company. And so he's my current VP of Revenue Operations. He started out as a salesperson, took over my sales process, made it even better, and he's been able to do double per year what I was able to do on my own.
So if we were looking at your accountability chart, he would be at the top of the sales and marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. He's got a team of 4 people that report to him now.
So you've got how many? 5 in your sales department?
Yep, we got a person that leads marketing, person that leads account management, and then 2 salespeople that report to him.
It's a hard thing to do. If you want to scale up as fast as you did, you have to be able to do sales. And it's very hard for a lot of accountants. They're a lot of inside their shell. They feel like they're pushing things on people. They're the ones pushing themselves over in most cases.
Accountants by nature are not naturally wanting to be salespeople. They don't have that mind. But accounting traditionally and continues to be a traditional word of mouth networking kind of sales process for most people. And if you've been in an area for a while or in a town, most of your sales and word of mouth occurs in the vicinity of your area, your greater metro or state. And most accountants tend to not venture out of that or apply, more modern marketing and sales techniques to their firm. And that's the
clientele that they're attracting to.
You're tracking your local community business a lot of the time in the traditional process. And I was applying all I knew was more modern sales and marketing processes. So I said, well, if software companies have figured this out, we can do this with accounting firms. Why not? And
you've said that a lot, and I like that because I think a really well-run accounting firm these days is run very similar to a software firm. I don't know, Ackerman, if you agree with that.
I think there's some key differences. I think where software companies go wrong, because software companies are trying to scale massively, and accounting, the relationship with your accountant is very important, and you have to focus on that. I think now, obviously, a lot of people don't feel that way, but I think you're knowing this person, your client is someone that you're becoming intimately, everything about them to service them correctly. And if you try to make it so that they have different people all the time, you're not providing them the best service, and they probably aren't going
to are we talking about tax or accounting though? Because if he's doing bookkeeping, do you have, I guess you do have.
Bookkeeping's different, but you still have to know the client. We're not at the stage. I think eventually we'll get to a stage where the technology can do a lot more, but agent intelligence, the bookkeeping stuff it's not robust enough to actually really do 100% of the work yet. You still have to have the person. doing some of the stuff. Now you can use the technology and do a lot of it, but you still have to know the client where certain things go. Would you agree with that?
Well, the solutions he's providing, I think, also integrates a lot of other things too. I mean, there's no way that you're going to have a big client on Intact and just be doing, coding checks and stuff and coding transactions.
Yeah,
You're doing more
and
than
obviously
that.
there's a lot of technology. So how do you set up like who's working on a client? Like what's your structure? Do you have a bookkeeper and then a controller, or like how many clients can one person deal with?
I think that changes as you continue to grow, right? We're at almost
For
50
the
people.
audience, 50 people total or 50 people in operations?
We have 49 employees total
Okay.
at Reconciled, majority of which are in operations, accounting services. So I think it's going to be, it looks different now than it was last year when we were at 25, and a little look different next year, at the end of this year when we're at over 100.
When I met you, it was not, I think you were at not even 20.
Yeah.
But how do you decide when to hire somebody? Or are you just always hiring because you're always getting clients?
Yeah. Yes.
No, you have a legit way of figuring this out.
We have our best. We plan, right, based on what sales, ops, and HR all connect, and we have our plan of here's the plan. Here's what sales expects to close over the next 3 to 6 months. Here's what operations had. Do they have capacity to take that on? If not, we need to start hiring. And then HR needs, has to have a hiring plan based on those needs. I think ops would always like to have more bench capacity than they have. And HR would always like to have more time to recruit than they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then sales would always like ops to take on more work. If I'm anything, I lean on.
When you say ops take on more work, what do you mean by that? Meaning like
organization, no matter if it's professional services or if it's a software company or if it's cleaning toilets, it doesn't really
new
matter.
Opportunities?
In any organization, if you're growing this fast, you never feel like you have enough resources in every department. Every department never feels like it. Everyone has a request for more bodies to be put in their department.
There's got to be a solution for that too. It can't always be chasing something, right?
You'd think that people would recognize you do have capacity, but the human condition always finds reason.
Fill in the extra gaps.
Yes, I always tell people this. If you tell somebody they have a 40-hour-a-week job, they will make whatever responsibility you give them 40 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you told them they have a 40-hour-a-week job. So whatever you give them, they will fill it.
They'll make sure that it's 40 hours a week.
40 hours a week. Even if it
but
only
you
takes,
can give them more work. You can give them
you
more
can
work
give
and they
them
will
more
still be effective and do it just as effective as giving
Right.
them little. It's a matter of how much, yeah.
Right.
But it's the right person and the right motivation. I think
Yeah.
we're going.
And the question is how, that magic line of what is truly 40 hours or full-time amount of work? What is truly that versus what is somebody accustomed to and has made that feeling of you never know that number is hard to get to when you're growing fast because work is always coming in. New work is.
But you're also evolving too. When you said the sales team is always throwing new things or want different opportunities, new services, shit like that, or just new clients. Okay.
Yeah. We're always adding new clients every single month, and so sales is always
Yeah, I always find it crazy when somebody asks, "Are you taking on new clients?" Like, yeah, of course we are. Like, I guess firms don't take on new clients.
There are firms that can't. There are firms that can or really don't have the capacity to.
Ackerman, have you been in that position?
I kind of feel like Michael is, where it's like seems like we're always at full capacity, but we're always growing.
Yes. Yes. And I think,
but you've got a plan. I mean, you really developed a plan where you have, people hiring. You kind of know what the capacity is going to look at. But I'm interested, like, do you have a goal for revenue per operations person? How do you measure, like, how much work someone should do now?
That's a great question.
How do you figure out what a capacity is for somebody? Is it a revenue goal? How you do it?
Okay, yeah. So revenue is one metric you can use, right? And my assumption is your goal should be get revenue per employee per month to be at $10,000. Start there. Start at $10,000.
That's $120,000 a year.
Yes, correct. Because if you're paying your bookkeeper $40,000 to $50,000, fully loaded, all those things, depending on what part of the country they are in, then you're getting 2.5 to 3 times their compensation, and that's your goal as in any professional services firm, right? So you want to get 2.5 to 3 times, depending on the type of professional services. So start at $10,000 a month. Some people can get there, and some people will complain all the way there. Literally at 5,000 they'll complain, at 6,000 they'll complain, at 7 they'll complain. They get to 12. You want to get them to a place where it's like, where are they really full, right? And I've had accountants and bookkeepers complain at 2,000 a month. I've had to complain at 4,000 that they're overworked, 6,000, 8,000. You finally need to get them to a place where they're actually, they're actually efficient.
So
and they're actually
when they
full.
complain, is it because the clients aren't priced right, or is it because they're
That's why revenue per employee is not the only metric you can use, right? You have to also you have to look at price. You have to look at the pricing of the client mix. You got to look at the quantity of the clients they have, and then you also have to look at, well, how much time is it taking?
Do you
for them
rank
to
your
do this work?
clients? I thought that was a very poignant thing to say when you're pricing is how much time am I saving you? I could give a shit about how much time my team is spending. You convinced me not to even fuck with time. And so I feel like you both have the same mantra on that. You mentioned time in there, and I don't want people to think that you're talking about time in a way that, and also this whole 40-hour week thing. Yeah, I mean, well, okay, you did just mention how long is it taking them to do this work. So then are you measuring that?
Yeah, of course we're measuring that.
I thought we're not
your
measuring
people are
that.
keeping track per hour of what they're doing?
Yeah, of course they are. Well, and here's the one primary reason.
They are.
Of course, we don't do that.
So not everybody assumes that.
Here's one primary reason is all of our bookkeepers. So when you start with a company, they all qualify for overtime. So we have to track time just for that reason. We pay overtime for all of our bookkeepers.
Once you're paying per hour for them.
Yes, per hour. Once they get to senior, because we tell people we don't want you to work over 40 hours if you don't want to. Right. And if you want to, we'll pay you overtime. Right, we'll make that fair, and it's a rule in Vermont that we have to, anyways. So we have everybody across the country.
Well, it's like that. I'm pretty sure it's like that everywhere. You have to be over a wage threshold.
Yeah, exactly. So then, once you get to senior level, which you get to, usually within 6 months at the earliest, depending on how long you've been there, then we give you a salary because you're doing a lot more complex things. You're making actual decisions on your own for on behalf of the client, and you're the account managers on these clients at the senior level. So we have 3 levels: senior, what we call CAS 2, client, Cloud Accounting Services 2, and Cloud Accounting Services 1, okay. CAS 1. CAS 1 is what everybody comes in at generally, and then you can move your way up to senior very fast if you have experience already and everything. So seniors are the account managers. They are basically the point of contact for all the clients.
How many people do they usually have under them?
Well, they don't have people reporting to them. So they have, depending on the clients, they have CAS 1 and CAS 2s doing the transactional work on those clients. And then they're generally covering review, month end, and client communication.
Okay. Do you have your team grouped in groups of clients, or are they in teams, or are they all working in just independently?
Seniors have clients assigned to them, and then CAS 2 and CAS 1s are doing transaction work on any clients they can.
Okay. So they're across the board on any client. So it is pretty horizontal in that way, where your seniors are running their book of business. And that's who you're measuring, or are you measuring the ones?
We measure everybody. We measure everybody, right?
So how are you breaking up that work? Is that work broken out into some kind of fairly allocated way?
Right. For your team? Higher paying, more complex clients have more time on the seniors' plate, less time on the CAS 1, CAS 2's plate.
Are the seniors tracking their time too?
Everyone's tracking their time.
Really? Why?
I'll say that for the 5th time.
I know, but
everyone's
why?
Why? We're measuring that for
they're on
reasons.
Salary. They're not. They're never going to be paid overtime. Why are you tracking their time?
There's a variety of reasons. Sales gets the pricing wrong.
There's
one reason, right? Mm-hmm. That's one reason. Sales gets the pricing wrong. You can see and people who.
How about forecasting? Like planning
there's a variety of reasons.
ahead.
There's a variety of reasons, right? There's
knowing their capacity,
right? And also you could see if is somebody consistently working 60 hours a week. You don't want that for them.
No,
We
no,
don't,
no. Especially if the amount of work that they're getting done at 60 hours is the same as somebody else's 20 hours.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
especially if they're
yes,
both account managers, right?
yes.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And then
Because
how do you measure if somebody says I'm overwhelmed, I'm working a ton of hours? Well, what's a ton? Is
yeah,
20 a ton to you or is 60 a ton to you? Is it a
because
mental
you're
thing? Do you
only
feel
producing.
mentally
Yeah.
20 hours mentally is hard? 60 hours could be the same mentally hard. How do you tell? How do you tell that? Otherwise, it's all subjective to what a
So
person's
at
saying.
but then at what context, that person that's complaining about the hours, you should already see and know that they're really only doing $5,000 worth of work a month, right? Or whatever it is. They're working a lot because they're not good. Why do you need to know time for that? If you're measuring based on their recurring revenue for the month,
Because
why do
recurring
you care
revenue is
about
not
time?
the only, because recurring revenue cannot be the only metric you run operations on.
I don't know. I'm asking you. That's not an answer.
Yeah, it is the answer. It is the answer.
Why is it not? But why? Well,
Because
why is that not the only?
you could have given them $5,000 a month of crappy mispriced clients,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right? You could get somebody else $20,000 a month of really perfectly priced, value priced clients.
Why not check the time on that once and then not again? Why not have some kind of average? Okay, this is
Because
how
you're
long.
bringing on clients
But
all the
can't. But
time.
don't
Yeah,
you
it's true.
inherently know if someone's mispriced? Like, do you need the time to know if they're mispriced?
No, no, I think you do need. I think time is one metric, but you know this. There are clients that are just, PETAs,
He does. Okay,
right?
yes, yes.
Right. So
But
it
What's
has
a
nothing to
PETA?
do with
What's a
time.
PETA? Hold on.
You know.
pain in the ass.
Pain in the
Yeah.
ass. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. They're a PETA, and it's not a time issue. It's a mental issue.
Mm-hmm.
It's a
Yeah.
mental stress issue.
Mm-hmm.
So time's not going to tell you everything, right?
So how do you? So if you have one of those, what do you do with that client? Like, who's monitoring these things? Are you repricing? How are you
you could be
fixing these issues?
repricing. You do check-ins regularly with the ops team, right? You have layers
Check-ins.
of
Check-ins.
check-ins, and you
Mm-hmm.
say, hey, well,
But
where's the stress?
who's checking it? Who's checking in with whom?
I mean, you want their names? We have 3 layers on our operations team. Then we have our managers over the seniors, and then we have our literal director of operations.
Mm-hmm.
So the layers of check-ins go down based on who you're reporting
So let's say your bottom person says, this is taking too much time. I
to.
know this is priced wrong. What do you do with that client?
The ops team lets sales know, hey, it's been 3 months or 6 months. I think we need to change or update the pricing. Services are misaligned, transaction volumes misaligned, whatever it is, and sales goes and has a conversation.
Actually, I think yeah, I think we have a pretty basic system for that too, similar to yours, where it's just tagging sales, saying here's this opportunity, here's this, or this is, but we're not measuring time, and they're still doing that.
So how often, when you go back to the client, when the sales team go back, do they just say, how many of them leave, or how many of them just accept the price? Do you know?
Well,
It's pretty high. They accept it's pretty high, but we don't care. I mean, at the
it
end of the
doesn't
day,
matter
you
because you're
want them to
saying if you want to keep working with
Well, no,
us,
I
this
think
is
it's
what it takes.
interesting though, because people, I think a big thing about accountants is they're afraid to tell their clients that they're underpriced, and most of the time the clients don't care. They want the service,
right.
and they're willing to pay that.
Mhm.
I
difference.
think it's a matter of accountants are undervalued, and accountants generally undervalue themselves.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
it is
Most accountants.
Yeah, most accountants are,
And I like how
and
you've taken that kind of to the sales team. Like, they're not responsible for that. They do the work.
Yep.
So there's no like emotional attachment
Yep.
with the
Right.
client. Like, that's the sales team does that.
Right.
Mhm. And they can be disconnected from it. They don't have to be the bad guys at any point. You know, it's just sales team, and the sales team's not the bad guy either, because I'm with you 100% on this. But I think what Ackerman is taking the angle of let's make this a teaching.
Well, because
moment.
most accounting
This
firms
is a
don't have a
teaching
sales
moment.
team.
That you're right though.
They don't have a sales team. Like, it's a partner doing the sales, and you haven't set it up the
or
way
lack
you set
thereof.
it
Yeah.
up. And I
Right.
think the way you set it up is you're set up for success that way.
Well, we'll see.
You have,
We'll see. Yeah,
maybe we'll see.
It could all just go crumbling one day. You know,
Yeah.
all of a sudden bookkeeping just goes away or QuickBooks dies.
So, well,
Go back to
that's a good question. What about? Are you worried about that?
worried
No.
about.
I'm not worried about it at
Why?
all.
And why are you not worried about it?
About like bookkeeping going away?
automation. How because Scott thinks Scott thinks we're just not going to have a job.
I don't think that. I don't believe that. I think we'll still be standing if we position ourselves right when everything's automated. But it's not about that. I think that you're providing a level of service that's beyond the automation. There is stuff that's already automated. You may lose your C1s, your CAS 1s at some point. You know, if you stick with this long enough.
Not in my lifetime.
Well, like in your lifetime, you're good. Really? So your CAS 1s are always going to have something.
There'll always be CAS 1s. There'll always be bookkeepers. And here's why. Unless the banks are required to do electronic, transparent data, unless there is a literal overhaul of the banking system in the IRS, a literal overhaul, which will take 25 to 50
there
years.
Is no connection. Yeah, well, in our country at least.
Other countries have figured this out, and that's why they have less banks and more electronic transactions than us. I mean, we literally have not said checks are illegal.
In the United States, in your lifetime.
Well, that's where we live, Scott. This is where
we
live. This is who we serve.
A lot of this stuff will and can be automated, but where there's going to be pressures above us, and people above us that are making sure that it's not.
Oh yeah, because I mean, how many checks are still written? Manual checks.
Jesus.
Like, when is cash going to become illegal? I don't see that happening for a long time.
Yeah.
But there are other countries that have figured that out. They've said basically manual check writing is gone. It's basically 1% of the economy is on manual check writing. That's different here. Cash, literal physical cash, is gone from a lot of economies that have gone electronic. So you've got situations here where I can't just send Jason or you money with a code right now. Like, that's some economies, literally you have a code, you give it to me, it's public, and I could send you money on it. I could literally send you money. I can't do that in the US. I have to ask you for wire information.
No, if you have an iPhone, you can do it in the US. If you have an iPhone, and your number is your phone number.
No, but you can't do that for businesses. You can't do a business-to-business.
Actually, no, you can't. You're right. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is, but
does the business have codes in other countries? Well, I get no. I'm not even going to go into that, but I still don't agree with you. I don't agree with you. In your lifetime, I think that it will be automated, but you're going to have sold your business by then, and you're not going to be worried about it. That's what I think. I totally think it's going to be automated because everybody that's holding a lot of this shit down, they're going to die. They're old.
Yeah, no, I doubt it gets overhauled.
We've had a lot of change that was forced on us this year, but people started opening their eyes about a lot of stuff.
I'm with Michael. I just don't. We're just so far behind, and
maybe I'm being unrealistic or delusional. Maybe I'm unrealistic or delusional.
Well, you've just
I don't think so.
I mean, eventually it will happen, but see, you've just skipped a bunch of steps, and we're still on step 2.
Do you realize how many steps?
And we got to get to step 20.
Do you realize how many steps were skipped?
You can see step 20. You can see step 20 now, but you have to realize that you still have to get to those steps, and we haven't gone there.
We can't even get medicine into people's arms fast enough. You think we're gonna change the digital banking system?
I'm with you on the steps, but I do believe that things change very fast sometimes, and that's happened with a lot of things. So something is going to come that just has sweeping change, that has more power than look at how much power Amazon has. If Amazon decides to say fuck everybody, we're gonna have a banking system, we're gonna run all of this shit, they can. At some point.
They can't, though, because it's regulated by the government.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And I'm sure they're still going to have some way of, of all of them connecting, and it's all done. And I'm not even being serious right now. I'm saying that at a certain point that the government won't be able to hold it back. There's going to be too much.
Anything's possible, but I think a lot of cloud firms have just skipped those steps. They think, oh, bookkeeping's gone. I don't have to worry about bookkeeping anymore. Yeah. And you have to worry about bookkeeping because bookkeeping, most people don't do it right. That's why you need a reconciled.
People are still paying for it. A lot of people are still paying. And we're a blip. We're nothing. I mean, we could get to $100 million firm. It doesn't matter. There's billions and billions and billions of dollars of bookkeeping revenue possible.
Yeah,
and
I guess
so,
I'm with you.
It's the same thing with the tax return. People have just given up on tax returns.
Yeah.
And the tax return is not automated. Yeah, TurboTax can do it all, but it still takes human input, and humans aren't trained in tax.
Right.
So they mess it up a lot.
Right.
And I don't understand why
At a
firms just
certain
giving
level,
up on
though,
tax
there's a
returns and
certain
bookkeeping.
level of tax returns that people should not be hiring out. They should just be
Yep.
going on
Well,
TurboTax.
that's the same thing with bookkeeping. If you have like a
Yeah.
$5,000 business, you don't need a
Yep.
bookkeeper.
Yeah, so all of this is in context too,
That's-
like, so there's a little bit of context here. If you're going with very low hanging fruit, low margin work, and you're a firm like that, or you're an old lady
But I don't think
bookkeeper-
that's what we're talking about.
No, we're not. But what
All
do we
right,
got?
this is the Joe Rogan podcast. We're in hour 2 now.
Yeah, this is how we're just getting going, Michael.
All right.
Okay, I've got to. So why did you pick QuickBooks over Xero in 2015?
They were better. No, actually, I knew the product.
Did you know? You didn't know Xero.
Michael, tell people like if they want to find you on the internet, on Instagram, on TikTok, where can we find you?
Just search Michael Ly. Mike. His last name is Ly. It's spelled not Lee. Ly. Michael Lee. Just search on any of the social media platforms. I'm gonna be on there.
If you start typing it in, Genius comes in. Like Google
Right.
all of those. Yeah.
Right.
It's just Michael Lee
Right.
Genius.
Look up Michael Lee AI. You'll find me.
AI. Yes.
Michael, this has been awesome.
Alan Iverson.
Thank you. We will have you back.
Yeah.
You just got your story started. We're gonna see this journey out. We're gonna see this through. No, I really appreciate you coming on. Fuck this conversation, not just letting him stand on his pedestal and tell us all of his achievements. But I'm sure too. We all are. Compared to NBA.
If I was tall, I wouldn't be in accounting.
Very
That's going on my.
All right. We'll re-record this next week, guys. Talk to you next week.
All right, Michael.
Yeah.